Okay, good morning. Here are some things you ought to know this week. The Ladies' Open Gathering, the fellowship group, is going to be on Thursday at noon. And if you turn your bulletin over and look, you'll see that next Sunday is the first Birthdays in View during refreshment hour. We'll be celebrating those born in January, February, and March. Expect cake. And then we'll be doing others on the first Sunday of each month. So tell Aileen in the office or Jean Barlow. Jean, raise a hand, wave your arm around there. If you haven't yet told them in what month were you born so that we can celebrate you. Next week, I will have a sign-up up for the first Sage Circle. Talked about this before. This one's going to be a short run. We will either do 2 or 3 months, depending on how many people are still available in May. We're trialing this so that we can do a full-fledged run next year. Anybody who is willing to consider, you don't have to commit, but at least consider potentially leading one of these next year, please, please, please come to this trial. Sign up for the trial run. I know you're going to ask, what do I have to do if I'm a leader? Not a lot, honestly. If you're a leader, you agree to meet at the leadership meeting once a month with me, which means you get to be in a Sage Circle without having to lead it. I'll be leading one every month for the leaders. And we will try out this month's topic at that meeting. We will see how it goes for us. And then you commit to taking the list of people who've signed up for your group and taking that topic that we've already talked about and having a meeting with them and letting them talk about it. Do you have to talk about that topic if your whole group hates it? No, you do not. Will I provide the materials every month? It's a 1-page. Yes, I will give you the 1-page to pass out to your group. So all you are committing to, if you are a leader, is I will send out an email to my group reminding them that we're meeting on Monday or Tuesday or whenever. I will try like heck to show up at the leadership meeting. I'll get the materials from Reverend Amy and send them out to my group. That's what you are committing to. You don't have to come up with them. You are a facilitator. You're just there to make sure everybody knows when your meeting is. So again, the sign-up will be up. It'll be up next week. I will have room for about 10 people in that group. I can go to 12 if I need to. We are hoping to spin off 6 saging groups next year with about 8 people in each group. So please, please, please consider signing up. Give this a trial run with me. Help us figure out what works here, what doesn't. We'll be doing meetings at the end of March, in April, and hopefully one in May. Sage Circles are a lot of fun. They are small group ministries. They rotate every year, so it's not like a fellowship group where you stay together with the same group year after year. This is a chance for you to get together with 6 or 8 or at most 10 people for up to 6 months. They don't go year-round typically. And talk, have fun for an hour. We give you a topic, we give you a conversation starter idea or little reading or material to consider. And it's something to get the conversation sparked.
So is SAGE an acronym?
Let me remember, social and group engagement. It took me a minute. But they're a lot of fun, and so if you find at the end of the 6 months, which is normally how long they run, that your group just adores each other and you don't want to separate, then we'll talk with you about changing to being a fellowship group. And we'll spin off new fellowship groups that way. These are very relaxed. You don't have to call in if you're going to miss. You don't have to panic. And we can start new ones at any time. So if we get a bunch of new folks and they want to start a Sage Circle, awesome, we'll start a new one. They're fun, it's a way to meet people, but at the end of the period, the groups dissolve. And the next year, we form new ones. Luck of the draw or luck of the sign up. And you'll go start with your new group and have fun for the next 6 months. So keep it in mind, they're a lot of fun. And now I'm going to ask Serena to come up and talk with you about something we're doing. And we got a great movie coming up, and I'll turn it over to her.
Good morning. You can see the slide up there. Yes? No? Okay, I don't see it. Next Sunday, after our service, we're going to be showing you the documentary film, Bad Faith. How many of you are familiar with it? Okay, a few. Those of you who have viewed this film know how serious it is, informative film about the history of Christian nationalism and how it played a huge part in the January 6th insurrection. And what is happening now with the full implementation of Project 2025. Many of you know that Rich and I have been involved with a national organization called Americans United for Separation of Church and State. It's an organization that is not against religion, but strongly believes that everyone in our country has the right to worship where and how they worship or not worship at all. And I know you are very smart people here, so it's been an ongoing issue throughout our country's long history. Christian nationalism very quickly is a perversion of Christianity and is working in full force to eventually turn our country into an authoritarian theocracy. And that is their goal, and it has been since they started. This is a serious threat to our personal and religious freedom, and we need to step up, call it by name, and educate as many people as possible. At the Right to Read program last February, which celebrates its one-year anniversary tomorrow, I think, we had a booth for representing Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and I couldn't believe how many people came to that booth and asked about it, were concerned about it, signed up to see if there was some chapter or something, and that prompted us to really begin to see what we can do to address this issue, because basically Christian nationalism is trying to take apart our Constitution, and it's very serious. For example, quick, in the school systems, the voucher program, they are really behind this voucher program. They want to eventually, they don't want to just close down the federal Department of Education, but they want to really eliminate public schools and have children via taxpayer money, your money, my money, every taxpayer's money, go to private schools, religious schools, private for-profit schools, and homeschooling. And right now, in Florida, in Sarasota County, we're paying for this. In collaboration with the Social Justice Alliance of the Florida South Coast and its member organizations, and in partnership with Americans United for Separation of Church and State, we formed an organization, Rich did, basically called Suncoast Citizens for Separation of Church and State. And we have a small steering committee that includes Reverend Amy, and we are working together to educate not only our community, but all of the different religious communities in Venice, Port Charlotte, Northport, some in Sarasota. We're having a second event so we're showing the film next Sunday, March 2nd, right after the service. Not right after, we're going to have some food first, but on April 26th, and Saturday, April 26th. And we hope that will draw many people, including clergy from other religions, who will learn about this from a national expert, a woman by the name of Amanda Tyler, Google her, who wrote the book, How to End Christian Nationalism. And you'll hear more details as we move along in this process. But we need your help. First of all, please attend the film if you can. It is profound, provocative, scary, but informative. And every American who believes in democracy should have the courage to see this film. So, for those of us who love going out to brunch after church, we would please ask you to stay. We're going to try to have some finger foods around 11:15 to 12 o'clock, so you can take a little break and then come back into the sanctuary to see the film. It'll take about an hour, a little over an hour to watch. We're going to ask you to help defray the costs of some of the brunch food that we might want to have, and the cost of the film, etc. If you would, next Sunday we'll have a basket out on the lanai, just to throw in a couple of dollars or $5, just to help defray the cost, because this is a young organization. It's not a 501(c)(3), it's just really forming, and we don't have any money to do this. So thank you very much. Oops.
Thank you, Serena. And for any of you who have not seen the film yet, it's a kick in the pants. It is informative, it's interesting, it's worth seeing. I'm going to hang around after the film if anybody wants to talk or process what they just saw. It's a heck of a film. And even if you don't come on Sunday, and I hope you will, I hope you'll stay after and sit and watch this with us. Even if you don't, please, please, please educate yourself on this. Whether you are Republican or Democrat or Independent or Green, this impacts you, and it impacts what your party is doing. So take a look at it, because this is a group trying to impact all parties, change the shape of all parties. So it's something to really pay attention to, no matter where you fall on the conservative to liberal spectrum. All right, I think that's all the things you need to know this week. Yeah, right? And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Janet.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice, which we call UCOV. My name is Janet Knudsen, and I'm the worship associate for this morning's service. At UCOV, we are here to laugh and cry together and to support one another in the best and the worst of times. We welcome all of you here today with the words of Michel Lagrave. We come to religious community from many paths and with diverse needs. If you have come here seeking comfort, may your pain be soothed. If you have come here looking for answers, may you find new questions. If you have come here seeking purpose, may your call be awakened. If you have come here hoping to build a new way, may the path open before you. Whether it's your first time in service with us or your 100th time, we are very glad you're here. Is there anyone visiting with us for the first time this morning who might want to raise your hand, stand up, introduce yourself, and where you're from? Just wait for the mic.
Hi, I'm Cindy Shaw from Chicago, Illinois. So, yeah, anyways, we're just down here for the month and wanted to check out the church. Thank you.
And I'm Cindy's mother. And I belong to a Unitarian church in Elkhart, Indiana. And so I just thought it'd be wonderful to check out UU churches in the area. And so I'm delighted to be here.
We're delighted to have you.
Hi, I'm Ashley Foster. I am visiting from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and I'm here with my mom. Thank you.
Welcome, Ashley.
Gene, there's more over here.
Matt and Mary Harmon, we're from the Boston area, and we're just down visiting friends. And we're UUs up there, so we came to see this one.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Diane. I live in Inglewood, and I'm a first-timer. I was curious, so here I am. Glad you're here.
Welcome, Diane. Anyone else? Anyone who has just returned from a frozen trip up north that we want to welcome back? It's cold enough down here. We are now entering into a sacred space, so please silence all your electronics, especially your cell phones. Our chalice lighting reading this morning is from Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel. Each of us is born with a box of matches inside us, but we can't strike them all by ourselves. Each person has to discover what will set off those explosions in order to live, since the combustion that occurs when one of them is ignited is what nourishes the soul. May this chalice be the fire which ignites our matches and feeds our hearts. Lisa will now play the prelude.
Laura Ingalls Wilder, the author who's behind the classic Little House on the Prairie, she wrote, "There's no great loss without some small gain." She got that from her mother. And honestly, I never found that to be a very warm statement. If I get in an accident and I lose my leg, the thought that now I only have to buy one shoe is not a great comfort. But it made me start thinking, what about those moments of good or even great that happen in the midst of the terrible? They're like a diamond in a sewer. These things aren't silver linings. They're not good that arises naturally from something bad. They're bits of good that arrive at the worst possible time and often in the worst possible place. And I've thought about this for years. Years ago, a beloved friend of mine had a very dark sense of humor. And she was best known for when we all had to attend a funeral, of being a smart aleck. And so you're all aware, what do you say at funerals? Oh, don't they look like themselves? That's common. And she'd be the one standing with the other three of us, very sotto voice, going, "No, they don't. They look dead. Their hair looks like a woodchuck someone has stapled to a dome." And she'd do it very straight face, and it wasn't cruelty, it was her way of whistling in the dark. And she passed away. And that left three of us standing there at her funeral, none of whom have that same sense of humor exactly. And we stood there and we cried and we sobbed and we did our best and we stood there some more. And one of my buddies looked in the coffin and I thought he was going to say something very profound. There was no one else around. He said, "Boy, she looks fat." And I managed to grab them and we walked into a back room and we lost it, hysterically, hopelessly lost it. We laughed until we cried. It was a moment of pure joy, remembering our friend and her snarky sense of humor, even when occasionally misplaced. It was a moment of pure joy in what otherwise was a terrible, horrible funeral for a beloved person gone way too early. What we're talking about today are the moments of good or almost good that happen at the wrong time. We're talking about times when we're trying to do good or great things and only sort of get it right, and how those two are connected. We're talking about surviving with a smile when the other shoe has dropped and the world has moved on. And life isn't always so great, but there are moments of pure joy. So come and let us worship here together. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. cards are, as always, offered with levity because giving should never hurt. And I apologize in advance for this joke. A UU minister is sitting at her desk and desperately trying to figure out how her tiny congregation will pay its bills. A member of the congregation interrupts her and says, "Reverend, I'm with the social justice group and we need $1,000 to sponsor a needy family." "I'm sorry," the minister said, "but we have no money right now. Ask me on Sunday after the offering." The man goes out and closes the door, and a few minutes go by, and he pops back in. Reverend, I forgot, I'm also on the campus team. We need $500 to fix the back patio." "I'm sorry," the minister says again, looking confused. "We have no money right now. Ask me on Sunday after the offering." "Right," the man says, and he goes out again. And a few minutes later, he comes back for the third time. "Hey, Reverend, I forgot to tell you, my wife's in the choir. She's helping the choir director. They need $300 to buy this year's music for the choir director." The minister takes a deep breath, looks at the sky, and says, "Let me ask you something. How do you spell dog, as in dogmatic?" The man looks confused, but he says, D-O-G. He said, "All right, good. Now, how do you spell cat, as in catatonic?" The man looks even more confused, but he says, C-A-T. "Wonderful," the minister says. "Now, how do you spell freak, as in money?" And the man starts F-R, wait a minute. There's no freaking money. "My point exactly," the minister says. "There's no freaking money. Ask me on Sunday." Yes, I changed a word in that from the original joke. The morning offering will now be given and gratefully received because we need the freaking money. Thank you all so much, not just for these gifts today, but for everything that you do for the life and the work of this community. Because it's as a community of human hands and human hearts that we come here together to bear witness and to minister to one another as we struggle with life's sorrows and we celebrate life's joys. Before or at any other point in the service, you're always welcome to come forward and light a candle on the candle table. At this point, we'll light them for you. So if you have a joy or a sorrow to share, please raise a hand, and either Tom or Jean will bring you a microphone.
I have a can I sit here? I have a joy. My daughter-in-law and my granddaughter, who's 18, came down, and we took them to swim and to go. We went to Snook Haven and took a boat ride and ate there. We went to town, and then we also went to the drum circle, and I have a drum, and I drum, and they enjoyed that. It was a great weekend, and I was the Yahtzee winner.
And they also got a really bad sunburn.
Sorrow. Our friend Mike Tidor, we've known for years, he died, and we'll surely miss him.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Addison, and you met my daughter, Ashley. She is an executive in healthcare in the state of Delaware, and they need all of your good thoughts because healthcare is going through a terrible time right now. But I haven't seen her in a year, so this is a wonderful celebration. And she was the one that after the election told me, find a UU church. I thank her very much for that.
Hi, Jim Well out here. Lisa and I had our 2 grandsons here for the whole week and had a wonderful time, the highlight of which was the Moat Marine nature tour on the boat. I recommend it highly. We also went to Snook Haven. On the other concern side, our son has been a weatherman working for NOAA for 20 years and is in danger of losing his job.
Hi, I'm John, and one of the celebrations I have is my brother, my younger brother, my smarter brother, but just not quite as good-looking brother, has been here for about a week, and it's going by too short. Another celebration is Katie and I survived 3 days of swamp walking in Big Cypress at Clyde Butcher's. I highly recommend it. If you want a swamp walk, ask us about it. And also on Wednesday, I'm having a total knee replacement.
Please join me in welcoming our newest member who signed the book this morning. I'm going to ask her to stand, Lori Hawkes.
Hi, I'm Donna Jewett, and of course it is February vacation, so I had my stepdaughter, her partner, Carla, and 17-year-old granddaughter coming to visit this week. Unfortunately, it wasn't as warm as we would have liked, but it's freezing back in Massachusetts, so they went back to ice and snow, and they said, oh, we wish we were back home, back here. Thank you.
May the love of this community hold all who need love and concern. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May we never look away when we're needed. May those who are grieving be comforted and those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant.
Our first reading is Tornado Survivor Finds Dog During TV Interview. An elderly woman whose home was destroyed by the Oklahoma tornado found her pet dog among the rubble during a live TV interview. The footage of Barbara Garcia came as fellow survivors began reliving the terror they felt while winds of up to 200 miles per hour obliterated their neighborhoods. Mrs. Garcia was standing among the twisted wreckage of her home as she was interviewed by a reporter from CBS. "I was sitting on the stool, holding my dog," she said. "This was the game plan all through the years, to go in that little bathroom together. I rolled around a little bit, and when it stopped, I was right there, and that cook stove is what I saw. I never lost consciousness, and I hollered for my little dog, and he didn't answer. He didn't come, so I know he's in here somewhere." And as she spoke, a member of the camera crew spotted a dog's head poking out of the twisted remains of her home. Mrs. Garcia crouched down before exclaiming with joy as she spotted her pet. "Well, I thought God just answered one prayer, to let me be okay. But he answered both of them," she said, before being led away from the ruins with her dog. Our meditative reading this morning is called The Beauty in Tragedy by Michael Ordizzi-Ordia. Ordizzi says, "Tragedy does not mean it is a story filled with overwhelming sadness. No, one cannot have pity for a character they do not love. Tragedy is most times balanced. There are good moments too. Just like life, we have good days and bad days. Like Jack and Rose, who had wonderful moments before the ship began to sink. Comedy puts a smile on our faces and creates an illusion for a while. But tragedy makes us face reality and learn from it. There is beauty in tragedy, for there is beauty in life, and tragedy mirrors it." Please join me in 1 minute of silent thought, meditation, or prayer. Our second reading is from I'm Gay and I Eat at Chick-fil-A. Should I Feel Ashamed? By Joseph L'Amour. How should queer people feel when they eat at Chick-fil-A? I often hear from clients and people in general that they should be doing, feeling, believing something. And whenever I hear the word should, I ask, according to who? And that is said by Dr. Dulcinea Alex Pitagora, a New York City-based psychotherapist and sex therapist. Dr. Pitagora uses they, them pronouns. In their practice, they often deal with queer patients and the shame they experience, approaching conversations with clients in a neutral, non-judgmental way, encouraging them to think about where the belief comes from and whether or not it aligns with their values. Then they can make a decision for how they want to act based on their own internal values. In order to do this kind of introspection, it's necessary to be aware of what your values actually are. So sometimes the conversation turns into an exploration of what someone's values are, Dr. Pitagora says. There can also be internally conflicting values, in which case prioritization and contextualization of conflicting values come into play. Chris, a gay 32-year-old who asks that we only use his first name, says he's arrived at that decision for himself. He doesn't feel ashamed for eating at Chick-fil-A. If they had poor animal rights history, I would feel shame, Chris says. For me to get through some of the stigma or the discrimination or the bullying that I encountered as a young boy, it's been really important to not feel ashamed. I don't know if it's willful denial or if it's really just intrinsic to who I am. Shame thrives off of silence. Almost every single queer person that spoke with me for this article agreed to, under the condition of shielding their identity. Their reasons for this may be slightly different, but the common denominator was a fear of the wrath of every other gay person on the internet. Now please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
After the hymn. Just do it after the hymn. Go ahead and do the hymn. Be seated, please. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for that beautiful intro to my sermon. Hey, it worked. As I said, I don't really want to talk about silver linings today or Laura Ingalls Wilder, there's no great loss without some small gain. Most of us are familiar with the idea that something not bad can happen because of something bad. And we're pretty comfortable at saying things like, well, my kids aren't coming down for 4th of July, but you know, it's okay. It saves me a few thousand in airfare, and I'm going to go out to lunch with a friend that day anyway. We know how that works, and we know how to feel about how that works. A little disappointed, little sad, but you know, hey, it's okay. Here's the good part. I want to explore two very connected ideas today, so see if I get this right, walking us through this. One is the idea of actually getting things right all of the time, and two is how do you deal with good, really good things happening right in the middle of really bad times. These are connected, believe it or not. Let's start with the idea of getting things right. Now, this can be personal perfectionism, or it can be ideological purity. Either way, it's a dangerous idea. Perfectionism, because it absolutely murders personal growth and exploration. And ideological purity, because it leads to zealotry. And often, a lack of common sense and an inability to make progress because of total gridlock. One of the most dangerous ideas throttling liberal people today is the idea that we have to get it right all the time, especially ideologically, and so does everybody else. We end up doing the equivalent of arguing that they've tied us up with the wrong color rope as they're marching us up the hill to throw us off the cliff. There was an article in 2022 in the New York Times by a writer named Nicholas Crystal, and Crystal named the article is, "What Have We Liberals Done to the West Coast?" Crystal writes, as a gesture of support to trans kids, Oregon took money from a very tight education budget to put tampons in boys' restrooms in elementary school. Well, that makes sense to me so far. Kids are getting their periods earlier, including boys' restroom in kindergarten. Now, to my knowledge, as a former nurse, there is not one healthy kindergartner that has ever started his, her, or their period. When only ideology is centered, with absolutely no room for common sense, we cut off actual progress. And most of us see this in our daily lives, whether we recognize it or not. A friend of mine committed they will not eat at Chick-fil-A, poor Chick-fil-A, because Chick-fil-A has been known they support anti-LGBTQ causes. I don't eat at Chick-fil-A, not often anyway, for that very reason. But my friend adores Chick-fil-A. And she refused to go to her beloved grandmother's 100th birthday party because grandma wanted it held at her very favorite place to eat, Chick-fil-A. Another colleague is a vegetarian, except she adores bacon. She actually eats it in secret and feels very ashamed of this. I used to refer to it as her guilt bacon. There are atheists among us who are deeply embarrassed because they love traditional Christmas carols with all the traditional words. There are hardcore animal rights activists hurt to their heart because when their mom died, she left them that mink stole that she used to wear, and it still smells faintly of her perfume. And they would give anything to put that on for the formal dinner they are going to next month. Now, multiple religions have made it very clear that wanting to do the thing, you might as well do it. It's the same. Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism. If you are sitting there thinking, man, I want Chick-fil-A, I want Chick-fil-A, you don't get a prize for not eating there. You want the Chick-fil-A. If what you want to do is truly bad, you know, I want to go kick puppies. No, no, no. You need to do the work to help not want to do that. I'm not saying that everything is okay. Please understand that. I'm not saying that every thought that crosses your head is good. But work on removing the want. If you're really worried about doing something that's a should, I should not want to do that, work on removing the want if it really bothers you or if it's really bad. But if the act isn't bad in and of itself, stop being so hard on yourself. Ideological purity is dangerous. Whether we're talking about in our organizations or in our lives, it can lead to something that's called toxic polarization. And that can happen organizationally or internally. Philanthropist Christian Campbell writes, toxic polarization, sometimes called affective polarization, is more than a difference of opinion. It's when opposing sides come to see their counterparts as the enemy or evil. It's when disagreement slides into dehumanization, creating the conditions for identity and ideology-based hate and violence. And personally, toxic polarization leads us to behave as if small deviations, anything less than 100%, compliance with a position or belief or ideology means that we're just doing it all wrong. We've let our side and ourselves down completely. This really matters when you are trying to talk across the aisle in terrible situations. We have a horrible divide developing in our country today. We want to have conversations with potential allies. We want to have conversations with good people who are trying to do good things. But the other side isn't going to get it perfect. We aren't going to get it perfect. We don't speak each other's language. Toxic polarization says that we have to regard them, whoever they are, as the enemy without listening to the content. Does it hurt when someone says something badly? Yes. Is it a series of micro and macro aggressions? Absolutely. I've talked with someone who used a very negative word for LGBTQ people, of which I am one. I have been told I should have told him that's a big ouch. You know, you have to educate yourself. Please go work that out before we try to enter into dialogue. That's true. If I didn't have the spoons for the conversation, I would have done that. But he wouldn't have come back. Not ever. 99 times out of 100, if you tell somebody, you screwed up talking to me, they're embarrassed. Think about how you'd feel if someone kept saying to you, well, you didn't say that quite right. What would it be like if you said it like this and said, okay? You might do okay for a couple of times. But if every conversation was a litany of all the things that you said wrong, eventually you'd stop coming back to the table. And if I would have done that to this gentleman who was using an unfortunate word, I would have missed the fact that what he was trying to tell me is, I don't know why anybody picks on gay people. They're just like everybody else. I just found out my buddy's gay. We like to hang out and work on cars. I don't know why anybody picks on them. And we got to be friends, and eventually I convinced him to tweak his vocabulary just a little so that I wouldn't have to hit him in the head with a pan. But by then, he trusted that I wouldn't mock him for not knowing what a better word was. He was using a word that was what he'd heard all his life as the more acceptable version to some really vile slang. No one is saying you have to respond positively when someone or some group is insulting or threatening you. But I am saying that if possible, you need to listen to the content before you critique every word. Try to figure out what they're trying to say. Are they threatening? Are they insulting? What's the content? When not only the content, but also the form of any conversation always has to be right, you will never be able to talk to anyone outside of your bubble. And you will lose out on people that could have been allies. We turn this toxic polarization onto ourselves, and that brings me to the other half of what I wanted to talk about. There is an underlying case of that in our culture today. There's a trope. You see it in movies and TV that tells us things are always either bad or good. And bless you, Hallmark movie followers, either things are good and then something bad happens and it's all a catastrophe, or things are bad and one little good thing happens and it solves absolutely everything. This does not happen in real life often. We don't know very well what to do or say when something really awesome happens, when things aren't good, and it ties back to ideological purity. How can I have this happiness right now when the world is a roaring dumpster fire and bad things are happening to people that I am concerned about? How can I be having this moment of joy right now? And the shouldas start showing up. We are good people, so we feel guilty and stressed about feeling guilty. And then we feel confused because we're still happy about the good thing, only not too happy because, dumpster fire and all that. There's a great poem by Ellen Bass, and the title is Relax. It's from her book, Like a Beggar. And I think I may have used it before, but I'm only going to read a little bit of the end. This is the end of the poem. There's a Buddhist story of a woman chased by a tiger, and when she comes to a cliff, she sees a sturdy vine and she climbs halfway down. But there's also a tiger below. And two mice, one white, one black, scurry out and start to gnaw at the vine. At this point, she notices a wild strawberry growing from a crevice. She looks down, she looks up, she looks at the mice, and then she eats the strawberry. So here's the view, the breeze, the pulse in your throat. Your wallet will get stolen. You'll get fat. You'll slip on the bathroom tiles of a foreign hotel and crack your hip. You'll be lonely. Taste how sweet and tart the red juice is. How the tiny seeds crunch between your teeth. You deserve those moments of good. Shouldas don't work. You deserve joy, even in the midst of horror, even when other people have it bad. You deserve happy. We are engaged in a great fight for the life and the soul of our country. We want to help and to heal, find a way to bring us all back to the table with love and dignity. But just like on an airplane, when you get told to put the mask on yourself first before you put it on a child, you have to care for yourself before you can take on the fights that are yours to fight. Ideological perfection, black and white, easy choices and simple lines, they're a myth. Be riotously happy that you found your doggie, even though you're standing in the ruins of your house. Laugh with your grandchild, even though the country is in so much trouble. Writer Johnny Thompson said Nietzsche, in his work, The Gay Science, believes this is exactly the balm necessary in the face of a meaningless world. He argued that only with explosive gaiety can we give light to the darkness. For Nietzsche, laughter is the greatest medicine and weapon we have by which to take on abysmal thoughts. Enjoy the things you enjoy. Go see a show. Go eat the bacon. Wear the fur scarf your mom left you. Talk to people who get it wrong but want to get it right. Avoid people who hurt you. You contain multitudes. It is not your job to be understandable to everyone. You do not owe anyone an explanation of your life and your choices and your joy. Joy is precious. Take it when it comes. Savor every strawberry that comes your way. Amen. We extinguish our chalice and we carry its light into the world to illuminate the good that can happen anywhere at any time. And if you are interested with the woman and the dog, that interview is out there. All you have to do is Google it. It is so precious, her face when that dog pops up. We're going to sing number 30, Over My Head, verses 1, 2, and 4. This is a fun song, the joyous song. It comes out of the African American spiritual tradition, so it's got a little swing to it. So this is number 30, verses 1, 2, 4. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing. Go into the world and know that something good is going to happen to you today. Enjoy the positive if you can, no matter how and when it arrives, and toss the should in the can. Peace, ashe, and may it be so.